Iran is moving full steam ahead, thwarting international efforts to monitor its nuclear development program. So much so that the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency now says it's like flying in a heavily clouded sky. This comes as negotiations reviving the 2015 nuclear agreement are set to resume by the end of this month. Well, here to weigh in on this is Israel's representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Danon. Mr. Ambassador, it's good to talk with you again. So how does the international community bust through this heavily clouded sky that the IAEA Director General says exists with Iran, or should we even attempt to break through it?
So I cannot understand it. We know that the Iranians are lying from the beginning, since the day the agreement was signed back in 2015, and we'll see what's happening today on the ground. You look at the nuclear capabilities, enrichment of the uranium, the ballistic missile tests, and I ask myself, how can the P5+1 still believe them? And as we speak, they are actually trying to convince the Iranians to re-enter the agreement, the same bad agreement that was signed in 2015. I cannot get it. I think the U.S. should lead a different approach and should actually demand from the Iranians to stop with their aggression, to stop with their nuclear ambitions, and not to actually give them the legitimacy that they want to receive by re-entering the JCPOA.
So how far have they come? I know Iran has proceeded aggressively to enrich uranium ever since the U.S. abandoned the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. It's now at a 60% level. And I've got to remind our viewers that a level of 90% is weapons grade. Once you hit 60%, it doesn't take long to reach 90. So how far away do you think the Islamic Republic is from actually possessing a nuclear weapon?
Well, the numbers you mentioned are accurate. And I want to remind you and the viewers that with North Korea, it was exactly the same. They negotiated, they went out from the room, they came back, and all of a sudden we woke up one morning and they announced that they actually performed a nuclear test. We cannot allow Iran to be at the same situation. And it's not only about Israel. All the moderate countries, the strongest allies of the U.S. in the region, are saying it very clearly. We should not allow Iran to become nuclear and to have that capability. And that's why we, in Israel, we are determined to block them, even if it means it will be only us fighting against their ambitions.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that because both President Biden and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken insist that Iran will not be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon on their watch. But do you really believe them? How sincere is the U.S. commitment to prevent Iran from doing so?
So here in the Middle East, time has a very important meaning. And the Iranians, they are very patient. They can wait. They can wait for another president. They have seen presidents come and leave the White House. You know, they dealt with President Obama, with President Trump, now President Biden, and they are moving forward. So, you know, declarations are important, but actual actions are much more important in the Middle East. And if the U.S. and the other Western democracies will not take actions against Iran, and we will hear only declarations, they will continue with their deception, with their lies, to the goal of achieving a nuclear bomb.
I think the key is deception, what you said. And we saw long gas lines recently in Iran just last month after a cyber attack occurred against their fuel supply. And that came just a few days, I guess, after Iran launched missiles against U.S. troops in Syria. And your country's been preparing its Air Force for a possible strike against Iranian nuclear facilities. So is diplomacy dead at this point? Is the military option the only one that remains? What's the best way to resolve this nuclear dispute at this point?
I think we should apply more pressure. We should reinstate the sanctions. They were very effective back when Trump was in power. I think we should look at other economical measures. And I have to say very clearly, we have nothing against the Iranian people. They are suffering from the regime, but we have to apply more pressure against the regime, personal sanctions, and I think that would be the best way to convince them. If there will be no other choice, we also leave the military option on the table.
Well, it seems like we're heading down that road. As you said, it's delay, build, delay, build. How much longer do you think it's going to be? How much time do you have?
So I think what we are seeing now that they are acquiring the capabilities, and when they will decide to race, can be very fast. So that's why even when in Israel, as we speak, the parliament is voting on the budget for the year of 22. And you will see in the budget line of the State of Israel that we are actually allocating the funds for all scenarios. We are not playing the game. We are serious about it.
Well, we're serious about praying for Israel and praying for peace in the Middle East. Israel's representative at the UN, Ambassador Danon, good to talk with you again. Thank you so much for sharing your time and insights.
Thank you very much.